What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today I gotta do the Sam Howell video. This is my clearing up of what I really think about Sam Howell, because I know that so many of you think that I hate him. And that's far from the truth. I don't hate Sam Howell. I don't think that Sam Howell isn't going to be a good quarterback. The thing about Sam Howell is that I've seen him here before. For all of you who responded, first I appreciate you all responding, because a lot of y'all kind of made me think about what I was saying, and if I gave you guys enough clarity to why I feel the way that I do about Sam Howell, and why sometimes I think that, you know, the desire for the quarterback carousel to be over with is pushing more people to believe in Sam more than they should believe in Sam. That doesn't mean, again, that he isn't going to be a good quarterback, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay down the line, and then what I'll do is I'll tell you guys what I want, okay? So, the reason why I'm not comfortable with the conversation of Sam Howell being a franchise quarterback has a lot to do with me. Again, like I said, I've seen him before in Washington. A guy very absolutely identical to Sam Howell. And I mean in every way possible. Mannerisms, all that. Everything is similar to this previous quarterback. And when I was talking to Impervious 99, who I really appreciate him responding back after I made the comp to Sam Howell and this quarterback, and he came back and he said, you know, he understood that he wasn't Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. So he was opening himself up to understanding where I was coming from. Again, I don't think that Sam Howell is a bad quarterback. I don't think he's trash. I just think that when you talk about a guy being our franchise, you got to also think about, can you depend on this guy to win it all when you need him to win it all? And to be quite honest, I don't see it. You're talking about in 3 games. In 3 games. He's had 3 games. Well, he's thrown 3 pick sixes this year. 3. 2 in back-to-back games. So you're talking about a guy that you want to crown as a franchise guy, but there are things that he needs to work on, yes. But at the same time, it's okay to not have your franchise guy here right now. It's okay to have a guy who might be the bridge to your next guy. Understand, there are teams that actually did that. But I'm going to go back to my comp for Sam Howell and why I don't feel the same way a lot of you feel. So, with that being said, at the time, I think I was like maybe 8 or 9 at the time. I think I was more 8, maybe 7. Washington is on their march to the Super Bowl, the 87 Super Bowl, right? Their quarterback at the time is a young guy. That guy's name is Jay Schrader. Jay Schrader, see, most of y'all remember that Doug Williams won that Super Bowl. But everybody never remembers the fact that Jay Schrader was the quarterback that entire season. Jay Schrader, and when I give you guys his numbers, you're going to now understand why I compare him to Sam Howell. Jay Schrader, that 87 season, threw for well over 4,000 yards. And understand this, he threw 4,000 yards at a time in the league where the running game is dominant on a team that was running game dominant. And he threw for the most yardage behind only one other quarterback. And that quarterback was Dan Marino. He had the second most passing attempts behind Dan Marino. He threw for 22 touchdowns. Had a 51% completion percentage, but again, I think that was calculated for back in the day. And he was selected for the Pro Bowl in only his real first season of starting all the way through. He actually made the Pro Bowl that year. So Jay Schrader is a guy who sat up there and it was like, okay, he is what he is. But the problem with Jay Schrader is that he held on to the ball. He would take unnecessary sacks. And he would throw unmitigated interceptions. Who does that sound like? That sounds identical to Sam Howell. Jay Schrader in one season had taken 28 sacks. And this was behind the Hogs, who is one of the greatest offensive lines to ever be combined in the NFL, in NFL history. They're one of the greatest offensive lines in NFL history. And Jay Schrader had 28 sacks behind that line. And that was because he held on to the ball too long. I remember they had an interview, and I think it was after they had lost to I want to say Denver. I think it might have been no, I think they beat Denver. It was either Buffalo or somebody, because I remember they lost. And I remember John Bostic, who was the center, sat up there and said, what we need is our quarterback to get rid of the ball. We need to go back to the running game, and we need to have our quarterback get rid of the ball. Their offensive line was so pissed at Jay Schrader. There were times where they would let him purposely get sacked because they didn't like him. It's not the fact that Sam Howell isn't liked. It's the fact that Sam Howell is identical to Jay Schrader. Here's another aspect of that. Jay Schrader marches Washington to the playoffs. A week before the playoffs, Joe Gibbs has a press conference and announces that he's going with Doug Williams as the starting quarterback through the playoffs through the rest of the postseason. That was a very controversial move back then. Now, controversial moves like this doesn't even matter. But that was a controversial move back then. And because Joe Gibbs was smart enough to know that, guess what? I'm not going to win it all with Jay Schrader as my quarterback. So I have to go with a guy who's going to give me the edge. And he went with Doug. And after that, history books are written. We have a Lombardi trophy because of that decision and that move. And that is what I'm talking about now. Right? It's not about the factor of Sam being a good quarterback. It's the fact that we can find something that's great. There's something that could be great out there. and we're only focusing on what's good right now. Like I said, Sam has 3 pick sixes in the season and 2 in back-to-back games. 2 in back-to-back games. And I understand that a lot of y'all are going to try y'all best to sit up here and talk about how he's leading the league and passing attempts, and he's tops in the leagues in passing yards and things like that. But let's talk about him being tops in sacks. Let's talk about him being one of the top people in interceptions. We can't sit up there and love all the good and mitigate or ignore all the bad. Like I said, to me, Jay Schroeder and Sam Howell are pretty much the same quarterback. And understand this, Jay Schroeder still had a very long career in the NFL. But guess what? A lot of people understood that they couldn't trust Jay Schroeder long term. One of them being Joe Gibbs, who knew he wasn't going to win the Super Bowl if Jay Schroeder was still his starting quarterback. He knew that. And sometimes it takes somebody who's smart enough to understand that level of a move to then say, hey, look, I like Sam Howell, but dang, I could probably win with another guy. And I know that a lot of you may sit up there and say, well, John, man, that's pretty hard. I mean, you say you don't hate him, but you giving us all this. I'm giving you valuable information. I'm giving you valuable information so you can understand that falling in love with a good quarterback can have you miss out on a great quarterback. So, again, it's not that Sam Howell isn't going to be a good quarterback. The problem is that he's going to be what he is, and you're seeing this. You remember there was the talk about how he doesn't make the same mistake over and over again. Like he'll make the mistake and then he corrects it. If that's the point, why did he throw 2 pick sixes in back-to-back games? How's that possible? It's because Sam, even though he's learning, you got to understand that this might be him. This might be him. 12 games into the season, this might be what he is. This is possibly what he is. Now, let me tell y'all from my fan standpoint. Now, I stayed down the middle to give you guys all that information. Now, here's my fan side. I don't want just a good quarterback. I don't want just an okay quarterback. I want a quarterback that is going to win it all. That at the end of the day, I can believe that he's going to win the game I need him to win. That without a shadow of a doubt, even though we're behind in a game, there's a chance that we're going to win. And some people have said this. They said, I understand he's not a Patrick Mahomes. In fact, Impervious said this. He said, I understand he's not a Patrick Mahomes. I understand he's not a Tom Brady. But that, if you understand that, now you got to understand where I'm going at. I don't want a guy who's not like Patrick Mahomes. I don't want a guy who's not like Tom Brady. I want a guy that when the game is on the line, there's a chance he's going to make a play that's going to bring us back. I'm not in the business of wanting a Baker Mayfield. I'm not in the business of wanting a Jared Goff. I'm not in the business of wanting a Derek Carr, a Jimmy Garoppolo, or even a Kirk Cousins. I don't want a okay quarterback. I want a guy that at the end of the day, I can believe is going to be that guy. And I understand that, and even to my man Tone. I love my man Tone. But Tone is he's a guy that I understand he's over the quarterback carousel. I know he is. I know he's tired of it. And just like a lot of y'all are just over this quarterback carousel. And you want to latch on to anything that is possible. But understand this. For all the slack you're giving Sam Howell, y'all never gave that to Taylor Heinicke. Sam Howell is making even worse mistakes than Taylor was making. And y'all gave Taylor no reprieve. Zero. And I'm going to say this. The difference between my support for Taylor and everybody else's desire for Sam to be the future, at least with what I was dealing with Taylor, I understood he wasn't the future at quarterback. I understood that. I accepted that. What I understood was that he, at the time, was the best quarterback on our team for the offense we were running. But never out of my mouth did I ever think that he was the future at quarterback. And what everybody else is doing is the same exact mistakes that y'all burned Taylor up for. Is the same stuff Sam is doing. In fact, Sam is doing it even worse, because at least with Taylor, there wasn't a bunch of pick sixes going back. So if you're going to have that same energy for Taylor, and some of y'all even had that energy for Dwayne, have it for Sam too. Have it for him too. Because understand this, I want a Patrick Mahomes type. And I don't care what nobody say. This upcoming draft, there are plenty of guys in this upcoming draft that can give me that. I'm going to tell y'all, in all honesty, some people are like, well, if you get the first two, then maybe. No. For all of you who have not watched college football, you don't know what you're missing in Michael Penix Jr. That dude is for real. It's 2 games in a row he's had, and he's going to have another one, I think, Saturday, because I think they're in the Pac-12 championship game. He has another game coming up. He's brought his team back twice in incredible fashion. And every time you sit up there and you watch Washington play, you can see every teammate that everybody on his team believes that Michael Penix is going to make a play to bring them back. That is a guy I want as my quarterback. And understand this, we could still go 2 more years while Michael Penix is learning whatever offense comes in here. But understand this. If Michael Penix was to beat out Sam Howell year 1, or beat out Sam Howell in Sam Howell's final year, what's the problem? And again, like I said, I don't hate Sam Howell. I don't hate him at all. I do think he's going to be a good quarterback. I just don't see him as our franchise guy. He's had just as many mistakes and just as many problems as everything else. But I've seen Sam Howell and Jay Schrader. And Joe Gibbs, and if it wasn't for Joe Gibbs' decision back in that time, Washington doesn't have its 2nd Super Bowl trophy. Because if it wasn't for Joe making that move and going with Doug, we would have lost in the playoffs. And we're not talking about 3 Super Bowl trophies by Washington. We're talking about 2. Y'all tell me what y'all think. How do y'all feel now that I've given you my reasoning for not wanting Sam Howell to be the franchise quarterback and why I don't consider him a franchise quarterback. Maybe some of y'all still feel that I hate him. Maybe some of y'all can now understand where I'm coming from. Y'all tell me what y'all think. For some of y'all who remember Jay Schrader, y'all tell me, do y'all see the same identical traits in the two? Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.